Nobody who is actually rich is telling you they are rich. Let that sink in for a second. The person in your office who drives the newest BMW, wears the freshest sneakers, and posts vacation photos every other week, that person is statistically more likely to have a negative net worth than the quiet guy sitting 3 desks away who brings lunch from home, drives a 5-year-old Honda, and never once mentions what is sitting in his investment account. This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is a deliberate psychological strategy that the truly wealthy have been using for generations, and almost nobody talks about it because the people who know it are too busy using it to explain it to you. Today, that changes, because what you are about to hear is not theory, it is not motivational fluff, it is the actual behavioral pattern that separates people who look wealthy from people who actually are wealthy. And once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called social proof feedback loops. When a person announces a goal publicly, when they tell their friends, post about their dreams, and broadcast their ambitions, the brain receives a small but very real hit of dopamine. It feels like progress. It feels like achievement. But here's the brutal truth that researchers discovered. That dopamine hit is the exact same feeling the brain produces when you actually achieve something. So your brain, which is fundamentally lazy and always looking for shortcuts, starts to confuse talking about your goals with achieving them. You feel successful without doing anything. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose the hunger, you lose the drive. You stop pushing because some deep primitive part of your brain already thinks you have arrived. Now apply that to money. Think about every person you know who loudly announces they are going to start investing, going to launch a business, going to save aggressively this year. How many of them actually did it? How many are still talking about the same plans they were talking about 2 years ago? And contrast that with the people who quietly disappeared from social conversations about money, stopped discussing their financial plans, stopped posting about their hustle, and then one day you find out they bought a property, built a portfolio, or launched something that is actually generating income. The silence was not absence, the silence was strategy.
This is what I call the Silent Millionaire Method, and it has 5 distinct layers that work together to create real, compounding, generational wealth. Let us go through each one carefully, because every single layer will challenge something you have been told to believe about money and success. The first layer is what wealthy people call financial invisibility. This does not mean hiding money illegally or being secretive in a dishonest way. It means deliberately choosing not to perform wealth for an audience. Most people in the modern world are performing their financial lives rather than living them. Every purchase becomes a story. Every achievement becomes a post. Every vacation becomes a highlight reel that is specifically designed to signal status to other people. And the devastating irony is that the more energy you spend performing wealth, the less energy and actual money you have available to build it. Think about Marcus. Marcus is 28 years old. He makes $65,000 a year at a marketing firm. He drives a leased Audi that costs him $700 a month. He wears designer clothes he bought on credit. His apartment is in the most visible, trendy neighborhood in the city, not because he loves it, but because he knows people will see his location tags. He goes to expensive restaurants, not always because he enjoys the food, but because the ambiance photographs well. Marcus feels wealthy, Marcus looks wealthy, Marcus has $1,100 in savings and 4 credit cards that are carrying a combined balance of $22,000. Marcus is performing wealth with money he does not have for people who do not care, to feel a validation that never lasts longer than the notification of a new like. Now meet Daniel. Daniel is 31. He makes $72,000 a year in IT infrastructure. He drives a paid-off 2018 Toyota Camry. He lives in a modest apartment in a quiet part of town. He meal preps on Sundays. He does not post about money. He does not talk about investing at dinner parties. He does not announce goals on social media. What Daniel does, quietly and consistently, is invest 22% of every paycheck into a diversified index fund portfolio. He maxed out his retirement contributions for the last 4 years. He has an emergency fund covering 8 months of expenses. He recently put a down payment on a small rental property that generates passive income. Daniel is not performing wealth. Daniel is building it. And here's the most important detail. Daniel is completely invisible to everyone around him. Nobody knows, nobody sees it. And that invisibility is not a side effect of his strategy. It is the strategy. Financial invisibility removes a specific and very dangerous financial threat that most people never consider: social spending pressure. When people know you're doing well financially, they begin to expect things from you. They expect you to pick up the check more often. They expect you to be the one who upgrades the hotel room. They expect you to contribute more to group gifts, group trips, group experiences. And if you're the type of person who cares about relationships, which most good people are, you feel that pressure acutely. You start spending to maintain a social image that you never intended to create. Financial invisibility eliminates that pressure entirely. When nobody knows what you have, nobody expects anything based on it. The second layer of the Silent Millionaire Method is what I call asymmetric information advantage. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is something that wealthy families have understood for centuries. Information about your financial position is power. The moment you share it broadly, you transfer some of that power to other people. When your colleagues know your salary, they know exactly where your ceiling is in negotiations. When your friends know you have money saved, they know you can say yes when they need something. When your family knows you received an inheritance or a bonus or a significant return on an investment, you will be navigating requests and expectations before you have even had time to make a decision about that money yourself. Wealthy people guard financial information the way a poker player guards their hand. Not because they are cold or selfish, but because they understand that strategic information management is a core component of financial preservation. The person who announces their salary, celebrates every bonus publicly, and discusses their investment wins openly is constantly giving others the tools to pressure, manipulate, or simply distract them from their wealth-building path. There is also a subtler version of this that happens inside your own head. When you talk about your financial wins too soon, before they're fully secured, you create a psychological phenomenon called premature closure. Your brain files the win as complete. The deal that is almost done feels done. The investment that is growing feels already successful, and that sense of completion reduces your vigilance, your discipline, and your hunger to keep going. Silent wealth builders never celebrate too early. They stay in execution mode, heads down, focused on the process, until the result is not just achieved, but sustainable. The third layer is the power of boring consistency over exciting volatility. Here's something the wealth performance culture will never tell you, because it does not make for an exciting post. The single most powerful wealth-building tool ever discovered is profoundly, aggressively, almost insultingly boring. It's called compound interest, and it only works if you leave it alone, stay consistent, and stop trying to make it exciting. Every time you chase a trend, switch strategies, or pull money out to fund a lifestyle upgrade, you interrupt the compounding process. And interrupting compounding is one of the most expensive financial mistakes a person can make, not because of what you spend, but because of what that money would have become if you had left it working. The silent millionaire does not find investing exciting. They find it mechanical. They set up automatic transfers. They choose boring, diversified, low-cost index funds. They do not check their portfolio every day. They do not panic when the market drops. They do not get euphoric when it rises. They treat wealth building the way a professional athlete treats training, as a non-negotiable daily or monthly practice that does not require motivation, does not require mood, and definitely does not require an audience. They just keep going. Quietly, consistently, year after year after year. And the results of that boring consistency are anything but boring. A person who invests $500 a month from age 25 to 65 in a diversified portfolio averaging 7% annual return will accumulate approximately $1.3 million. They never had to be loud about it. They never had to hustle publicly. They just had to be boring and consistent in private while the rest of the world was busy performing. The fourth layer is the radical psychological concept of delayed identity. Most people in the wealth performance culture make a catastrophic mistake very early in their financial journey. They start living the identity of wealthy before they have actually built the wealth. They buy the car that says, "I made it," before they have made it. They book the vacation that signals success before the success is real. They dress, speak, and behave as the wealthy person they want to be, which sounds like good manifestation advice, but in financial reality, it is deeply destructive. Because every dollar you spend living a future identity is a dollar you cannot use to actually build that future. The silent millionaire does the opposite. They delay the identity expression. They live below their means not because they're miserable or deprived, but because they have made a clear-eyed decision that the temporary discomfort of restraint today is massively outweighed by the permanent freedom of wealth tomorrow. They are not performing the character of a wealthy person. They are quietly becoming one. And there is a profound psychological strength that comes from that gap, from knowing what you are building while showing the world something ordinary. It requires a kind of internal confidence that most people never develop, because most people need external validation to feel secure. The silent wealth builder has learned to draw their security from their actual financial position, not from other people's perception of it. This is why you'll often find truly wealthy people dressed simply, not because they cannot afford better, but because they have nothing to prove. They have moved past the stage where clothing and cars and visible symbols carry meaning for them. Their wealth is real. It exists in spreadsheets and portfolios and properties and businesses. They do not need a logo on their chest to remind themselves or anyone else of their value. The fifth and final layer of the Silent Millionaire Method is what I call compound social capital. Here's the counterintuitive part that surprises most people when they first hear it. Being silent about your money does not mean being isolated or antisocial. In fact, the most financially successful people are often deeply connected, widely networked, and genuinely generous, but in a very specific and strategic way. They give quietly. They help people without broadcasting it. They share opportunities without making a show of it. And because of that, they attract a very different quality of relationship than the person who performs generosity for visibility. When you help someone quietly, without posting about it, without making sure everyone knows you were the one who helped, you build a different kind of trust. You become the person that other quietly successful people want to be around, do business with, and share opportunities with. The loudest people in a room are usually not the most connected. The most connected people are usually the ones who listen more than they speak, who give more than they publicize, and who have cultivated genuine relationships built on actual substance rather than performed status. And that compound social capital has a direct financial return. The right connection at the right moment, a business opportunity, an investment insight, a career-changing introduction can be worth more than years of traditional saving. But those connections almost never come to the performer. They come to the person who has proven, through consistent, quiet action, that they are trustworthy, serious, and genuinely invested in mutual growth. So let us bring all 5 layers together and paint the complete picture of what the Silent Millionaire Method actually looks like in real life. You wake up and your automatic investment transfer has already executed before you checked your phone. You go to work and nobody there has any idea what your portfolio looks like. You drive a practical, reliable car that you own outright. You eat well, but at home more often than not. You wear decent clothes that are clean and appropriate and do not carry a message about your financial status. You have strong friendships, but your conversations about money are private, strategic, and rare. You have long-term goals that you have shared with essentially nobody, and every month, without drama, without announcement, without a single post or story or tweet, your net worth grows. The machine keeps running. The compound keeps compounding. The silence keeps protecting you from social pressure, from premature closure, from identity spending, from information leaks, and from the exhausting performance that keeps most people running in place while feeling like they are racing forward. The world is currently in the middle of a mass financial delusion. Social media has created an environment where the performance of wealth has been completely decoupled from the reality of wealth. People are going into debt to look rich. They are sacrificing actual financial progress for the temporary dopamine of looking
financially successful. And the truly dangerous part is that this performance culture has become so normalized that restraint now looks like failure. Living below your means now looks like you cannot afford more. Driving a modest car now looks like you are not ambitious. And the silent wealth builder has to have the psychological resilience to be completely unbothered by that misperception, to know that the person looking at them with mild pity is actually in a far more financially precarious position than they will ever reveal on the internet. You do not owe anyone a performance. You do not owe anyone a display. Your financial life is yours to protect, to build, and eventually use for the freedom and impact that actually matters to you. The greatest revenge against a culture of performative wealth is to quietly, consistently, and ruthlessly build the real thing while everyone else is busy looking the part. So here is the question I want you to sit with and share in the comments, because I genuinely want to hear your perspective on this. Have you ever caught yourself spending money not because you wanted something, but because of how it would look to other people? Was there a specific moment where you realized the performance was costing you more than the lifestyle was worth? Drop that moment in the comments below, because I think this community needs to hear real stories, not just theories. And if this kind of honest psychological breakdown of how money actually works is what you are looking for, not the hype, not the get-rich-quick noise, but the real, grounded, research-backed truth about building lasting wealth, then Money Mentor is exactly where you need to be. Every single video on this channel is built around one goal: giving you the mental frameworks and financial strategies that actually move the needle. Subscribe if that is the journey you are on. The silent ones always find each other eventually.